Imagine you're sprinting through this dark, mile-long canal tunnel.
Right.
The sky is completely gone. There's just this thick layer of earth and brick separating you from the satellites orbiting, way up above.
Yeah, a total dead zone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
By all accounts, the 600-pound piece of technology strapped to your wrist should just think you've ceased to exist.
It should totally lose you.
Right. The GPS signal is completely blacked out. But somehow, as you emerge on the other side, you look down and see that your watch knows exactly how fast you are running and, precisely where you are.
It's a moment that feels a bit like magic when it happens.
Oh, for sure.
But it's actually the result of some really intense high-stakes engineering. I mean, when you push these premium endurance sports watches to their physical limits, you aren't just testing a battery.
Right.
You're testing algorithms against the chaotic reality of the physical world.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking a very close look at a piece of hardware that is trying to pull off that exact kind of magic while making a massive splash in a highly competitive market.
Yeah, it's crowded space.
Very. We're talking about the Amazfit Cheetah 2 Ultra. So this is a 600-pound trail-capable premium running watch released May of 2026. And, it has a very clear target painted squarely on its back.
Oh, definitely.
It is trying to dethrone the reigning king of sports watches, Garmin.
And at 600 pounds, you really aren't just competing on price or, aesthetics anymore.
No, not at all.
You are stepping into the heavyweight ring. You're basically demanding that athletes trust your data over the established industry standard.
Which brings us to our core mission today. For you listening, we need to answer this. Does the Amazfit Cheetah 2 Ultra's real-world accuracy and, software maturity actually justify that flagship 600-pound price tag?
Right, or are you just paying for a really pretty piece of hardware?
Exactly. So to figure this out, we have a fascinating stack of sources from June 2026. Our primary source, where we are pulling the hardcore real-world testing data from, is a spectacularly detailed review from the 5krunner.com.
And their testing methodology is notoriously rigorous.
Yeah, they don't mess around.
They don't just read the spec sheets, right? They actively try to break these watches in difficult conditions, which is exactly what we need to see past the marketing hype.
We're pairing that with a counterpoint source. So we have a review from T3.com by Matt Collett.
Right.
And this represents a more, I'd say, mainstream enthusiastic consumer tech perspective. And then for some baseline context, we're pulling from a specs overview over at watchesreviewed.com.
I do need to explicitly flag something regarding that Watches Reviewed piece, though, before we get into the weeds here.
Oh, yeah, good point.
It contains no actual field testing data, none.
Yeah.
There are no images of it being used on a trail or a run, so we are only going to use it to establish the baseline specifications of the watch.
Right, just the hardware numbers.
Exactly. When it comes to how the watch actually performs on a sweaty wrist, we are leaning entirely on the real-world data from the 5krunner and T3.
Okay, let's unpack this. Before we tear apart the data and judge the accuracy, we have to understand what exactly you are paying 600 pounds for on the outside.
Because it's a lot of money.
It is. We usually skip past standard spec sheets, but the physical proposition here is a major part of Amazfit's strategy.
Yeah.
According to those specs from Watches Reviewed, the Cheetah 2 Ultra is built from grade 5 titanium with a sapphire lens and a 1.5-inch AMOLED screen pushing 3,000 nits of brightness.
To put those numbers into a practical context, grade 5 titanium is an aerospace alloy.
Okay, so it's tough.
Very. It's significantly harder than standard titanium, meaning it won't scuff the first time you accidentally smash your wrist against a granite boulder on a trail.
Which happens all the time.
Right. And 3,000 nits of brightness means you can comfortably read a topographic map while the midday sun is just glaring directly onto the glass. Wow. It's designed to look like a luxury watch you'd wear to dinner, but function like an absolute tank.
But the aesthetic versatility isn't even the biggest surprise. The internal hardware houses a battery that leads to a rather shocking performance metric.
Oh, the battery test.
Yeah. Amazfit claims the watch can do 60 hours of continuous GPS tracking. Now, we usually ignore manufacturer claims like that, right?
Yeah, because up to 60 hours generally assumes you've turned off the screen, disabled the heart rate monitor, and set the watch to only check your location once every hour.
Exactly. It's usually a wildly optimistic lab scenario.
Yeah.
But the 5Runner actually took this watch out for a 100-kilometer open road cycling loop on the Isle of Wight to put that specific claim to the test.
And this was not in some stripped-down battery saver mode.
Oh.
This was with the GPS set to accurate mode, pinging all satellite systems, with the screen brightness turned up.
And over 5.5 hours of riding, the Cheetah 2 Ultra's battery drained exactly 10%.
10%.
It went from 100% to 90%.
The math on that is staggering. I mean, if you extrapolate a 10% drain over 5.5 hours, that projects out to roughly 55 hours of real-world, highly accurate GPS battery life.
That's insane.
Amazfit's marketing claim of 60 hours is actually incredibly close to reality, which almost never happens in this industry.
No.
To put that into perspective, the direct competitor at this price point, the Garmin Forerunner 970, is only rated for 26 hours in its standard GPS-only mode.
Wow.
The Amazfit is literally doubling the endurance of the industry leader.
I mean, having a 55-hour battery completely changes your relationship with a device.
It really does.
It means you can go for a multi-day hiking trip and literally leave the charging cable at home. But I'm going to push back here.
Okay, let's hear it.
It's like buying a sport car and actually getting the advertised miles per gallon. It's amazing, sure.
Yeah.
But the battery and the titanium shell are ultimately just a container.
Right.
The data is the actual product. A 55-hour battery is completely useless to a serious runner if the watch is recording garbage data and thinks you're running through a lake when you're actually on a sidewalk.
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
The physical reality of the watch only matters if the invisible sensors inside it are actually doing their job.
Which brings us to the ultimate test. Let's strip away the premium build and break down the 5K runner's rigorous GPS field data.
Yeah, let's get into the numbers.
They put the Cheetah 2 Ultra through the standardized 10-mile test route that is specifically designed to confuse GPS algorithms. It includes, like, heavy tree cover, narrow alleys, tall brick walls, and that long canal tunnel I mentioned earlier where the watch loses a view of the sky completely.
And overall, the Cheetah 2 Ultra scored an 85%.
Okay, 85.
But context is crucial here. This is a big leap forward from its cheaper sibling, the Cheetah 2 Pro, which only scored 73%.
Oh, that's a huge jump.
Right, and it's on par with Amazfit's rugged model, the T-Rex 3. However, it falls short of the immediate competition.
Okay, let's hear the comparisons.
The Coros Apex 4 scored an 88% on this exact same test, and the Garmin Forerunner 970, it scored a 92%.
To understand why it scored an 85%, we really need to look at the difficulty breakdown. On the easy open sections of the route, the watch scored a 91%.
Which is solid.
Yeah, very solid. On medium difficulty, it dropped to 81%. But on the hard sections, the score plummeted to 69%.
Ouch.
Yeah. The interesting thing, though, is that it didn't fail in the tunnel. In fact, it handled the total blackout remarkably well using dead reckoning.
Right, and dead reckoning in this context relies entirely on sensor fusion.
How does that work exactly?
So when the GPS chip loses the satellite signal entering the tunnel, the watch's internal accelerometer basically takes over.
Okay.
Because you're running in the open air minutes before, the watch has already calibrated your exact stride length. It reads your arm swing, calculates your cadence, and essentially acts as an inertial navigation system.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it blindly but accurately traces your speed and distance until the GPS reconnects. Amazfit's algorithm for this specific task is actually highly refined.
So if it can calculate its way through a mile of solid brick, why did it get a 69% on the hard sections?
Ah, right.
Looking at the GNSS chip data, the villain here seems to be multipath interference.
Yes, multipath.
The 5K runner noted it struggled specifically in a narrow alleyway with high brick walls and when running immediately adjacent to very tall buildings.
Multipath interference is basically the ultimate final boss for a sports watch.
How so?
Well, the Cheetah 2 Ultra uses a dual-band GNSS chip, meaning it listens to two different radio frequencies from the satellites. But when you run next to a skyscraper, the satellite signal comes down from space, hits the glass facade of the building, bounces off, and then hits your watch.
Ah, so it's like a visual echo.
Exactly.
It's like trying to have a conversation in an empty, echoing cathedral. You hear your friend's voice, but you also hear the sound waves bouncing off the stone pillars like a split second later.
That's a perfect analogy.
Your brain has to filter out the bounces to understand the real words.
That is exactly the mechanism at play. Because the satellite signal took a detour and bounced off the building, it took slightly longer to reach your wrist.
Okay.
The watch calculates distance based on time of flight. It thinks, oh, this signal was delayed, so the runner must be further away. And suddenly, it draws your GPS track going straight through the lobby of the skyscraper.
Oh, wow. So the 5K runner notes that when you are right next to a wall, the reflection point is only about 3 meters away.
Right.
The data shows that Garmin and Coros just have a more mature ability to identify and reject those 3-meter echoes that Amazfit currently does.
Yeah, it's a software gap.
The Amazfit hardware is receiving the signals perfectly, but the software processing those signals gets confused in the cathedral.
The physical hardware is hitting a ceiling, leaving the heavy lifting to the software algorithms. And we see a similar story with the optical heart rate data.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Since we know optical sensors rely on measuring capillary blood flow just under the skin, the heart rate data here is fascinating.
It really is.
Out of 6 separate testing sessions, including cycling, gym simulations, and running the Cheetah 2 Ultra, returned 5 excellent results and 1 good result compared to a chest strap.
Which is really impressive.
It is, but the one test that dropped to good happened during a stormy, high-intensity interval run with lightning and freezing hailstones.
Right, and that single data point makes perfect physiological sense when you understand vasoconstriction.
Yeah, vasoconstriction. Okay, break that down for us.
So when you are doing intense interval sprints, your heart rate spikes and drops rapidly. Add in a freezing hailstorm, and your body essentially enters survival mode.
Oh, I see.
It pulls blood away from the surface of your skin to keep your core organs warm. The capillaries near your wrist physically shrink.
So the watch is shining a light into the wrist, but there are simply fewer red blood cells flowing there to reflect that light back to the sensor.
Precisely. The sensor just has far less physical data to work with. In contrast, during a hot indoor gym session, your body flushes blood to the surface to cool you down.
And the sensor has a ton of data.
Exactly. The sensor has an abundance of data, and the watch scores perfectly. Again, the hardware is doing everything it can, but it is entirely at the mercy of the environment and the body.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We've established that we have premium titanium hardware, a battery that absolutely refuses to die, highly accurate heart rate in most conditions, but a GPS algorithm that gets confused by echoes in tough urban environments.
Right.
How do our sources interpret this total package for you, the buyer? Because this is where they completely diverge.
It's wild. They look at the exact same physical object and come to 2 entirely different conclusions about its value in the current market.
Let's look at Matt Collat's perspective over at T3. He is overwhelmingly enthusiastic. He frames the Cheetah 2 Ultra as a genuine Garmin Enduro alternative.
That's high praise.
Yeah. He points to the offline, full-color contour maps, the premium titanium build, and that massive 55-hour battery. For him, this watch is proof that the gap between Amazfit and Garmin is practically closed.
Yeah.
He sees it as a massive triumph for mainstream consumer technology.
And, from a mainstream tech perspective, his enthusiasm is definitely warranted. When you compare feature sheets side by side, Amazfit checks almost all the same boxes as watches that cost hundreds of pounds more.
Yeah, that's true.
It has maps, it has dual-band GPS, it has titanium. On paper, it looks like a heavyweight champion.
But then you read the 5 Runner's verdict, and it is highly specific, incredibly data-driven, and much more critical.
Oh yeah, they pull no punches.
They conclude that yes, it is a good watch, but the £600 list price is approximately £100 too high.
The 5 Runner's argument hinges almost entirely on software maturity and sporting merit.
Software maturity.
Right. The invisible code running the trail features just isn't fully baked yet. For example, Amazfit introduced a feature called Elevation Overview for trail runners. It color codes the hills on your route so you know what's coming.
Which, sounds great in a press release.
It does, and it is a functional minimum viable product. But the 5 Runner compares it directly to Garmin's equivalent feature, which is called Climb Pro.
Okay, how do they compare?
Garmin's Climb Pro has been around for years. It automatically dissects every climb, shows your exact position on the grade, and is heavily customizable. Amazfit is fighting against what we could call a data moat.
Data mode.
Yeah. Garmin has a decade of machine learning fueled by billions of miles of user data to train its multipath rejection algorithms and its climbing software.
Oh, wow.
Amazfit is basically starting from scratch.
And that lack of maturity shows up on the trail.
Yeah.
During testing, the 5 Runner found that the visual rerouting feature on Amazfit's maps, like when you take a wrong turn and the watch tries to dynamically correct your path on the screen, was buggy and unreliable.
Yeah, and if you are miles deep in a forest, exhausted, and take a wrong fork in the trail, you really don't want your map software panicking.
No, you need it to just work.
Let's lay out the direct comparisons, because this is where the 600-pound price tag really gets put under the microscope.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's start with the direct price match. The Garmin Forerunner 970 is exactly the same price, $599. As we discussed, it scores higher on the standardized GPS test, 92%, versus Amazfit's 85%.
Right.
More importantly, it has that deep, mature trail software stack. It gives you Pace Pro for race pacing, Climb Pro for the hills, and Ultra Run aid station support.
Which is huge for ultra runners.
Absolutely. The 5K blunt verdict is that on pure sporting merit, if you're spending $599, Garmin still wins.
But we also need to look at the budget comparisons.
Yeah.
Because maybe you just really want that premium titanium build and the trail maps, but you want a better deal.
Right, there are other options.
The Sunter Race 2 is $499. That's 100 pounds cheaper.
Wow, okay.
It gives you the premium materials, similar build quality, and a much more mature third-party app ecosystem for technically minded athletes. The trade-off is you get significantly less battery life than the Amazfit.
And if you just care about the precision of the data and, saving money, the Coros Apex 4 is $449. That is 150 pounds less than the Cheetah 2 Ultra, and it actually scores better on the GPS test at 88%.
This raises an important question.
Yeah, let's hear it.
If you are standing in a store with 600 pounds in your hand, what are you actually prioritizing?
Right.
Are you paying for the physical reality of the watch, the 55-hour battery that means you rarely have to plug it in, the 3,000 nit screen that cuts through the glare, and the titanium aesthetic?
Or are you paying for the invisible thing?
Exactly. The 92% GPS accuracy, the mature algorithms filtering out the urban echoes, and the absolute reliability of Garmin's software.
That's the dividing line between the two reviews. T3 values the tangible hardware and the overall user experience. The 5K runner values the absolute precision of the data and the maturity of the sports software.
It's two totally different philosophies.
It really is. So we've covered a lot of ground today. From dead reckoning in pitch-black tunnels to shrinking capillaries in freezing hailstorms.
We've been all over the place.
Let's pull all these threads together. The Amazfit Cheetah 2 Ultra is undeniably Amazfit's best, most complete watch to date. If you buy it, you're getting a glorious, huge screen, aerospace-grade titanium armor, and a battery that genuinely over-delivers on its promises.
It is a remarkable piece of engineering on the outside. It proves that Amazfit can build hardware that competes with the absolute best in the world.
But for the serious, hardcore data nerd athlete, that 600-pound price tag forces it into the ring with the Garmin Forerunner 970. And in that specific fight, its software maturity and its ability to reject those multipath GPS echoes just can't quite land the knockout punch.
Yeah, it's a great watch, but it's competing in a bracket where great is simply the baseline expectation.
So what does this all mean?
I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder that builds on everything we've explored today. We are looking at a beautifully crafted device, but as smartwatches pack in more processing power, we are rapidly hitting a physical ceiling on what optical heart rate sensors and tiny GPS antennas can actually capture on a sweaty, moving wrist.
Right. There are limits to physics.
Exactly. There is only so much signal you can read through freezing human skin or in a concrete canyon. So, are we entering an era where the deciding factor between a good watch and a great watch is no longer the hardware you can see and touch, but entirely the invisible AI algorithms interpreting all that messy, echoey data?
It brings us right back to the magic we started with. The perfect watch isn't just about building a better sensor. It's about building a better brain to understand the chaotic reality around it. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those tough questions about the technology you strap to your body, and we'll catch you next time.